Hi, I'm Frankie. Welcome to Business on the Rise. This podcast is your playbook to learn everything you need to know to launch, grow, and fund your brand. Today, I'm talking to Shamin Shaimah, the Milkfish Lady, someone special that I'd like to call the Eco Warrior. Shamin's mission is really to educate all of us to be a lot more conscious on ethical and sustainable fishing. And it's going to take 80 years, she says, for all of us to get to that place and for the ocean to regenerate and recover. So let's hear it from Shamin. Shamin.
Frank.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. And can I just say, I feel very, very lucky and very blessed to have met you, because it's not every day that you meet somebody who's super authentic, unique, and different. I like different people.
I feel the same way about you.
Oh, well, we can go on and on about
We
this.
could.
We can't start like this, can we? I met Shamin at Bungalow 18, and you were a customer with your husband, Bob, and you had a meal at the Pergola.
Amazing meal.
And I got to know you, and I was just like, whoa, this chick is super cool. I have to interview her. But for those people that don't know who you are and what you do, please tell us a little bit more about who is Shamin? What do you like, and what are your values and ethos like? Maybe take us a little bit on a memory lane and take us through some history of how you got to where you are today and being the founder of the Milkfish Lady. What a name.
All right. I'll take you back in time a little bit.
Yes.
So it all started when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
All right. That's when I got my first real life work experience. At the age of 12, mom came to me and said, "Hey, I got a friend. She's running a bazaar. She's hit some trouble. No one's there to take care of her books." And mom said, "Go out there and help her out." I said, "I'm 12 and I don't know anything about this." And I said, "What am I selling?" She said, "Spices." I said, "I'm 12. How do I sell spices?" Mom said, "Whatever you do, don't sit down. You got to be up. You got to sell." So I go for the bazaar, and for 2 days, I sold out the spices.
Wow.
Ignited the dream and that slight bit of obsession I have with business, right?
Right.
So then at 18, I registered my very first business in Singapore. It was a sustainable toy company. So the idea was to make sustainable toys. And I was into it. I started producing and we had the samples come in. But sometimes in life you get thrown a curveball. When I was thrown a curveball, I could not continue with that dream, right? So professionally, I'm in the special needs school management line. And when I was in that industry, it taught me two things about myself. Firstly, I have a knack. I'm really, really good at getting businesses out of a sticky situation or a difficult situation. I somehow have developed, a skill in that.
Okay.
And the second thing that I was very good at was I was a natural with children. I love kids, and it was a thing for me. Now, who I am today is merely a woman who's trying to keep that 12-year-old girl's dream alive.
Right.
And at the same time complement it with the two things I've learned about myself. And I do that by running the Milkfish Lady today.
Okay. Now, there's a few things here that I
Right.
kind of want to take back.
Okay.
You said that you have a knack for business.
Yeah.
And I understand that spark started when you were 12.
Yes.
Where did this spark and business savviness comes from? Like you've done a few things in between before being the Milkfish Lady.
Yes, that's right.
Those three things that you've done previously, Is that the reason why you think you've got a real knack for business? And you also said that you're very good at getting out of sticky situations.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's like a little cheekiness to that. Like, what do you mean by that? Getting out of sticky situations? 'Cause I want to know, how do you get out of that? And what was that sticky situation, if you can give us an example?
Okay, so, well, I think I got inspired first by my mom, if I have to be honest. She was a businesswoman herself.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, she didn't follow the rules.
Right.
She went against the grain,
Love it.
but she had one rule. Whatever we do with good intentions, good thoughts, and good work. So I think from there, that philosophy or that mindset came with me as I took my first job at the age of 12, right?
Right.
And when I say sticky situations, the example that I can give you was that when I started in the special needs line, I was in a school that I thought, when I stepped in, I knew that it was a brilliant school. I saw what it was doing for children. But unfortunately, the school wasn't doing too well at that time.
Right.
And we run a risk of closing. Financially, it was just not doing very good.
Did you own the school?
I didn't. I
You were
worked for,
working
yeah,
for
I was working for a
Right.
very lovely lady. Um, and I saw her dedication to wanting to build this school for the kids and her love for special needs, children that learn differently. So I couldn't believe it that it was at a point where something so special was about to go, was about to leave or close. So I took it upon myself. I said, hey, can I just look at the files and, maybe just by flipping some pages, I'll figure something out. And I did. As I flipped pages, I just saw a couple of missing things, a couple of pieces that were there, but it was just not complete.
Right.
And I took it upon myself to say to her that, hey, I see some areas that could use some improvement, and I think I can help. And I said to her, if you trust me, I'd like to help. We'll take anything at this point. And from then on, I did what I have to. 3 months, we expanded. Today, it's one of the best special needs school in Singapore.
Oh,
So yeah,
well done, you.
thank you.
Right. Now we can focus a little bit more on the Milkfish Lady.
All right.
Where did that name come from? And what's a milkfish? For those of us that don't know, I mean, I do, but a lot of us don't know what that means.
Right. A milkfish firstly, it's a very delicious fish.
Okay.
But how we got here is basically, I started fishing as a hobby,
Right.
something for me to do with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed the sport, but I was concerned about a couple of things. I was concerned if I was hurting the environment. I was concerned if I was hurting the fish. And on my own, I decided to embark on this journey of learning how to fish sustainably or how to fish ethically so that I don't lose this wonderful sport that I've grown to love.
Mm-hmm.
So in that process, I was just learning and watching videos, videos on YouTube, on TV, reading books about it. And I came across this show. It's called Robson Green's Extreme Fishing. Now, Robson Green goes on a trip in Australia and he goes and catches milkfish. And then I turned to my husband and I said, hey, that's going to be the first fish on my to catch list when I've honed my skill and I've got to a certain level. And he said, we have to go to Australia. I said, yes, let's go to Australia. Let's do that because that's really what I want. I want to catch the milkfish.
It's only available in Australia?
It's native to Australia.
Yep.
It's not native to Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
So that very weekend, we went fishing, obviously, not in Australia, in Malaysia. And all I wanted to do was catch barramundi for dinner.
Right.
So I put everything together, took all the skills I've learned, chucked my line out, and in less than a minute, right, I caught onto a fish. And I thought, well, we're going home early today. We got some barramundi, right? But when fish was landed, I looked at it and I said, this is not a barramundi. What is this? It looked familiar, but it was the first time I was catching something like this. So the guy behind me says, that's a milkfish. And then I turned to look at him and I said, what? How was it possible that 3 days ago I said I wanted to catch this fish and I need to travel to Australia? And the next thing you know, I've caught it right here in Malaysia.
Right.
So people were taking videos, putting it on YouTube, and it went viral. So when I went to tackle shops, people looked at me and said, hey, you're the Milkfish Lady. And I'm like, what? And they said, you're the Milkfish Lady. You're the one that caught the milkfish. I soon found out that there were many anglers that tried to catch that milkfish and was not able to.
I see.
So by luck, I did. And that's why I always say this name and this business, it chose me. It wasn't the other way around.
Right.
So that because people kept asking, tell us a story, I decided to start a blog.
Yeah.
So the Milkfish Lady started out as a blog. And then from there, I went to a tackle shop. Again, met a father and a son duo who had trouble looking for their gears. But I was learning so much that I was able to help them get their beginner gear for the son.
Mhm.
And the father told me, I've never fished before. You look like you know a thing or two. Can you take my son fishing? And I said, okay, I'll do that. And I did. And that's when the Milkfish Lady tours started. So that's how Milkfish Lady came along.
That's such a cool story.
It is. Like I said, I didn't choose it, right? It chose me.
Yeah. And how long ago was this?
This was 12 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, 12 years. Wow. It's been a while.
Wow. So now, the brand, the company, the Milkfish Lady, your main mission is really to educate and create awareness on ocean conservationist and through fishing and sports fishing. What does it mean to be ethical in terms of fishing practices, whether you're fishing with your family personally or in a competitive sports fishing?
Right. So when we say ethical fishing, there's really three components to it. You go fishing thinking about the environment, the fish, and the fisherman. When we say the fisherman, it's also the people around you, right? So you go in with the thought process that you take absolute care of the environment, the fish, and the people. When done correctly, ethical practices contribute to conservation in a sense where we practice catch and release. This means that if you catch a fish, you take only what you need if you need to eat it at home with your family. But if not, you safely release it. There's a whole process on fish handling and how you release it. Now, one fish release could result in thousands of fish for the future through reproduction. Right? So fish lays eggs, it's thousands of fish. Just one fish could make that difference. So it is important to release the fish and release it to ensure that we reduce on fish mortality rates in that process as well. So we got to do it right.
Right.
So when it comes to ethical fishing, the three main components are to focus on those areas. Yeah.
I mean, that's good to know. I mean, for those of us, I love fishing. And my dad and I used to go fishing all the time when we lived in Singapore. And then we used to go to Tioman, hire a boat and go fishing. It was really, really special.
Yeah.
I miss that.
You come fishing with us?
Yes, for
Love to take you
sure.
out.
I beg you
love
to
to take you
adopt
out.
me and take me.
Done.
Yes, and teach me a lot more about, because I wasn't taught about, my dad was, an animal activist. And so he, I guess, practiced, but I don't remember him saying there is a particular way to fish fairly and ethically.
Yeah.
Now, how do you integrate ethical practices into sports fishing experiences to ensure that there is sustainability in the ocean and the environment? I mean, you talked about the three things, but can you dive a little bit deeper?
Right. So how we do it is when we run our tours, we take people out and we lead by example. I think the first thing is to show people that if I'm doing it, you're able to do it too. So, like I said, catch and release. A lot of times when we go fishing, the first thing I see is, parents catching fish, and if they're taking it home, they're dragging their fish on the ground or the gravel on the mud. And I always tell them, don't do that, because it may not just be the fish you catch, it's also the food you eat. And we treat that with a lot of respect. Right. So that whole process of what happens after you've caught the fish. Right. Keeping it safe, sealing it up, keeping it fresh. These are important things, right? So we lead by example. The other thing that we do is showing people how to handle a fish. So a lot of times people think that once a fish is out of water, that's it, it's done. It's not true. There's actually a way to handle a fish out of water. You hold it horizontally. never, from the lip or anything like that, horizontally like a precious baby. And when you put it back into the water, it's the same way as well, right? So we show it through our tours how we do it, and then people start following, right? And then that starts a chain reaction to ethical fishing. Now, we don't only do the fish part. For anglers, we tell people that, hey, if there's 100 fish in the ocean and you're there alone, you don't take 100 fish and bring it home.
Right.
What you do is you take one or two, because that's really the capacity that we can take home, depending on the size of the fish. And we leave the rest for the next angler. We leave the rest for the people, for the next generation. We don't take everything for ourselves, right? It's important to teach that, because that ensures a sustainable fishery.
Right.
So those are the few things that we talk about. And then when it comes to the environment, we always tell people to come in and leave the place that you fish cleaner and better than when you came in. So if you come in, you see trash, it's the little things, but it matters, because over time, when more people do it, it accumulates and it makes a difference. So that's how we try and do it.
So cool. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the services that you provide as a brand,
Right.
and some of the programs that you create at the same time to educate, whether it's the local community or individuals, families, or people in the competitive sports fishing level.
Yeah.
What sort of programs do you create for them to educate them?
Okay, so what happened is I became an education partner of the International Game Fish Association. Now, the International Game Fish Association is the governing body for sports fishing and conservation, right? It's an industry it's an organization that's been around for more than 80 years, right? So they generally set out
This
the
is an
rules.
international
It's an international
organization based
organization.
in the US?
Yeah, it's based in the US, right? Head office in Florida. And what they do is they govern sports fishing around the world. And
Right.
and when I started with our kids fishing program, which is basically our family friendly fishing, from that tackle store to a family friendly fishing program. Now, when that took off, we were approached by some international schools, and they said, "Hey, this is really cool. We'd like to have it as a part of our curriculum, extracurricular activity."
Nice.
Right? From there, I developed a sports fishing program. Now, then the International Game Fish Association saw what I was doing. They came on and they said, "Hey, I like what you're doing. I want to share this with more people, more kids," right? So we worked together. They signed me on as an education partner, and we developed what we call a passports to fishing kit. So it's a kit that we can now ship all around the world to people like myself, right, who just wants to go out there and teach people about ethical fishing. So the first thing that we did was we launched a program to teach 100,000 kids around the world.
Wow.
And it did really well, right? So the kit was, all around the world. We shipped to more than 30 countries, and kids were being, taught about ethical fishing, about seafood, about sustainability. So the message was now growing,
That's
right?
so cool.
It was a really exciting time for us, right? And from then on, I was appointed as the IGFA representative. So now I'm no longer just an education representative. I now have to represent the sport of fishing, which is very new to me, because I just enjoyed it as a hobby. I was good with kids, but now I've got to talk to the community. So I had to find creative ways to share with them about what we do. Because if you don't have interest in the sport, you may not want to know more about it. So what I did was I worked on training anglers to get world records for Malaysia. So they worked hard, they followed ethical rules, and since my appointment, we've got 4 world records for Malaysia.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're really lovely, hardworking anglers that really want to do things right. So them having a world record with a great amount of followers on social media, it does the work for me. It gets the message out there. So yeah, those are some of the things that we've done on an international level. The education continues. Yeah. I'm losing my train of thoughts.
That's okay.
There's a lot.
I lose my thoughts all the time. I blame it on perimenopause. But mind you,
I'm not there yet.
But people are thinking, dude, is this perimenopausal or are you just going to use this
As an
throughout your
excuse.
lifetime? Like,
Yeah.
why not?
Okay, that's me too.
Just use it. You can use,
It's
yeah.
perimenopause.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit more about the community that you work with.
Mhm.
Like, let's kind of layer it down.
Mhm.
Who the stakeholders are, right? So you work with the local community and you work with this global organization.
Yes.
What about our local government? How supportive are they in your initiative and about educating not only individuals, families, but fishermen all over the country, as well as sports fishing?
Right.
Are they involved? Do you get involved with them?
I try to,
Yeah.
but it's very tricky where we're coming from.
Mm.
Number one, it's very new.
Right.
It's not just very new to Malaysia, it's very new to Southeast Asia. Just the
Right.
concept of ethical fishing.
Yeah.
So when you speak to them, they want to work with you, but they don't really know
How?
how.
Got it.
So when it comes to our tours, we've got tourism, right?
Mm.
Tourism turns around and say, this is great.
Mhm.
This is great for tourism.
Mhm.
And they've been very supportive
Mhm.
of our work. When it comes down to the sport, it's a little bit tricky.
Right.
Because sports governance, it's such a wide framework. It's a lot to work with. And then we have fisheries because we are promoting sustainable fisheries. So we've got the Department of Fisheries that has recently, over the last 2 years, worked very closely with us.
Mhm.
They're hearing me out. They're hearing about my experiences. They want to know better my perspective and they want us to work together. So over the last 2 years, it's been a very good, slow growing process with the government. And I'm very thankful for that because, and the reason why it took us a long time is not because they were not interested.
Mhm.
It was also because number one, I struggled with the Malay language.
Right.
Right. So I wasn't very good at it. But during the pandemic, I made it a point to learn the language because our industry was dying.
Mm.
Sports fishing, like a lot of industries, was dying during the pandemic. And I couldn't allow it to fail, because it was so beautiful. I understood the beauty of the sport. We were teaching kids for many years already. But what if the sport died? Then what? Then what happens to my work, right?
Mm.
So I needed to speak to the community, the local community, and I needed to know what they needed, right? A lot of them lost their jobs and they
Right.
went on to craft work.
Right.
They went to make artificial lures. And they were very, very skilled with wood, with plastics, they were carving, painting. And I saw that. I saw the amount of skill that Malaysia has.
Mhm.
And I decided that we need to do something about it. So I opened up an event called Pasar Pancing. It's really an expo, but I didn't want it to be intimidating to people that has never done this before. So I gave it a pasa concept, a bit of nostalgia. I told people it's very simple. Doesn't matter if you're a big brand or a small brand. I give you a space and all you have to do is sell, get excited, and bring back the love for the sport, right? So Pasar Pancing was the first time that Malaysian anglers and the community came together with all their differences aside because they understood what it was like to not be fishing for for 2 years, right? They missed it. And it was my opportunity to bring them together and promote sustainability. So I told them, let's come back. Let me tell you about what I do, right? I do ethical fishing. Why don't you do it too? Because that will ensure, a brighter future for the sport. So the event allowed me to talk to the community, get to know them a little bit better, and grow the sport ethically within the angling community. Sorry. Yeah.
Pasar Pancing. So for those of us that don't know bahasa,
Yes.
means fishing market.
Yeah.
Got it. I see a pattern here, and I think I see where you're coming from. You have a knack for business. So with the Milkfish Lady, you started as a hobby with your
Yes.
hubby,
Yeah.
just to summarize
Yeah.
it all. And then you practiced,
Yes.
and then the fish came to you and not the other way around, and you
Yes.
created a business, a service,
Yes.
mainly to educate individuals and families that want to fish, but do it responsibly and ethically so that the environment is secured.
Yeah.
And the fish are conserved.
Yeah.
And then you went on to create sports fishing platform.
Yeah.
Number 2. And then the pandemic happened, and then, you know, fishermen lost their jobs or couldn't go out. And you couldn't let that go.
Yeah.
You created a platform and an opportunity for the fishermen because you saw them being very creative, creating crafts specifically for fishing.
Yeah.
And so you saw an opportunity here,
Yeah.
not only for yourself, well, not for yourself, but for the people that were, the stakeholders that were involved.
Yeah.
Hence why you created Pasar Pancing,
That's right.
the fishing market.
Yeah. That's right.
So those 3 things within your business and in your brand. Is there anything else that you do besides these 3 things as part of your service and programs?
There's a lot that we do.
Wow.
If I have to be very
List
honest.
it down.
I think one way, when we talk about conservation and educating about conservation, I also didn't want it to be boring.
Yeah.
I think it can get very boring, especially if your heart is not in it. If you don't feel for it, then you will not want to know anything about it. It doesn't interest you. So what I did was I opened up a publishing house so that I could appeal to readers because I love reading. And I think that fishing it's a beautiful adventure. The places we go to fish, the things we experience while we fish, when we sit down with anglers, we tell these stories, and the adrenaline is as much alive as when we're right there fishing. And I wanted to take that and put it into a book so that everyone else can feel what we feel. And reading does that to you. It takes you somewhere, right? So I also wanted to reach a wider audience because let's face it, I'm in Malaysia and I needed the local community to know the story. So I published a book called Insang. It's a collection of stories from some of the best adventures of anglers in Malaysia, and it's written in Bahasa, which was a big challenge for me. But I had a good team, a great team of editors that worked with me to make sure that this happened. So Insang is one of them. Um, I also try and build other things to support our effort, right? When we were fishing out at sea, I noticed that I loved it there. It's exceptionally stunning when we're out at sea. And there's a particular fish that we go out for and we take people out for, and it's called the sailfish. And today, primarily what I do in everything that I do is I'm educating. It's to also teach people about the importance of conserving the sailfish in Malaysia. We have this beautiful species in Malaysia that a lot of people don't know about.
Right.
So what I've started is also a program to now put satellite tags on the sailfish,
Right.
so we can track where they go. And I didn't just want it to be a conservation project where we put a tag on a fish and then go on a computer and track it. I decided to turn it into a race for corporates or individuals that, want to help us by sponsoring a tag. And it will have their name and their brands on it. And the fish will race for 8 months, and the fish that goes the furthest wins,
No way, that's
So it's fun, right?
cool.
It's fun.
You're so clever.
I have to make it fun,
Yeah.
So people will jump on board with us.
Yeah.
You see? So those are some of the ideas that I put together to have fun and still continue the education.
That's awesome, because my next question was going to be like, what are some of the successful stories that you have encountered? I want to highlight these success stories because, as you said, education can be boring.
Yeah.
And when you talk about education in general, not specifically on fishing, I feel that there's a massive gap in the system. I feel that there's stuff that needs to be jigged. But you've done that for fishing education and ocean conservation.
Conservation, yeah.
Very, very, very cool. But what are some of the challenges that you've faced? 12, 13 years in the business now. You've highlighted some great stuff. But as any business, there will be some blockages, falls, challenges.
Yes.
Have you had some like really momentous challenges where you thought like, what the hell am I doing?
Yes.
Is this for me?
I'm
I've had
writing
it.
I'm writing a resignation letter to myself. Yeah, most definitely. I've had quite a number of challenges,
Okay.
but it's funny because when I have to deal with them, I kind of like it.
Oh,
Because when I have those challenges, I feel that I get to learn something and I get to
sure.
be creative and think of a way out of
Yeah.
it, right?
But you don't think of it like that when the challenges comes, right? Do
Oh
you
yeah,
like
when it comes, I'm
some
like,
do
oh,
you
here we
like
go again.
yeah, I'm like, what the
It's like,
I
why?
cannot see the lessons. I just see the problem.
Problems are good though.
Okay. Yes.
Problems are I love
Agreed.
problems. But yeah, I feel that way.
Yeah.
Definitely. I definitely feel that way. And sometimes I think, why did this business choose me? Why me?
Yeah.
I'm not that strong.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get into that zone. But to be honest, I think the biggest challenge is something that we've imposed on ourselves,
Mm.
which is I'm ethical not just in the sport of fishing, but it's also in the way I run my company.
Mm.
I'll give you an example. When we work with children, it is imperative that they sign a waiver before they start fishing with us
Hmm.
to protect them because we take photos.
Right.
And child protection is a very important thing to me.
Yes.
So before you start a session with me,
Yeah.
we have a waiver,
Mhm.
right? Safety. We have to go through all these processes.
Mhm.
Now, in the waiver, there's an option whether you want us to publish your photos or not.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's a lot of cases, especially when we work with refugee schools,
Mhm.
where they tell us, no, we don't want the photos on social media.
Yeah.
And we respect that. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely fine with that.
Yeah.
But what's not okay is that means that when we speak to the public of our efforts, they turn around and they ask us, are you sure you've done it?
Right.
There is no proof,
Right.
right? Although I do keep a photo or two for myself for the memory of us doing
Mhm.
it, but
Mhm.
rightfully, I am not able to share this, right? So it becomes very difficult because we live in a world of social media. We live
Mhm.
in a world where you have to put content out. And I live in a mindset where I need to do the work first before I put my content out. And if
Mhm.
I can't put my content out, it's okay. I just need to make sure I reach the goal of conservation and education. It doesn't matter what the world thinks, right?
Mm.
And I thought that way for a very long time. Uh, but it's catching up.
Right.
I can't continue, being behind the scenes. I've got to now find creative ways to come out and tell people that we've been doing the work for all these years. And maybe you don't know a lot about us because
Mm.
it is truly my fault. We
Mm.
don't put it out there as
Mm.
much because we have been focused on the work that we're
Sure.
doing and respectful to parents or organizations that want to protect children in
Mhm.
this process.
Mhm.
So that remains one of my biggest challenge today. I'd like
Right.
to tell you that it's
So
the
that's
fishing
marketing
and
challenge
it's a
then.
marketing challenge,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's to be respectful and ethical at the same time. I don't want to be a business that now talks to people and use keywords and say, "Oh, we're sustainable or we're ethical."
Mm.
I've not done that.
Mm.
I don't highlight these things
Mm.
because we do the work. It's a
Mm.
lot of work. So yeah, I've got to find a creative way to come out and share about what we do without turning it into a business that is just, another one of those conservation thing or ethical thing. I've got to figure out a way.
I love everything that you're sharing because it's I feel like it's almost the opposite of what normal businesses talk about.
Mhm.
People share about their marketing ideas all the time. They're
Mm.
very, very good at marketing and promoting
Yeah.
their brand. And for some, I feel like you've done it the opposite way. You do the work first and making sure that you do it sustainably, and that's not just the gimmicky
Yeah.
marketing gimmick that
Yeah.
people talk about all the time,
Yeah.
right? CSR.
Yes.
You're doing it the opposite. So marketing is a challenge for you.
It is, and I am aware. I do understand what is required in marketing today,
Hmm.
but I don't necessarily 100% agree with it.
Sure.
And I could very well be wrong about this, but
Yeah.
it just doesn't fit right in my ethos,
Mm.
in how I feel about running my company or how I feel about getting the message out there. Because I think that it shouldn't be something that people look at and somehow feel a certain way and then move on to the next post
Yeah.
or move on to the next story.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want you to stay for a while.
Mm.
I want you to take a chance on me. I want you to come fishing with me. I
Mm.
want you to and I don't want to use any gimmick to get you there. I want you to do it because you want to do it.
Hmm.
So translating that into social media content isn't very easy. But if I were to use all the shortcuts that we know of, maybe put a cat or, wear a bikini or something like that, these things work.
You do that on
Right.
TikTok. Apparently, it gets you viral.
It gets you places.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to do those things.
Let's talk a little bit more while we're on this subject of scaling a business. It's a topic often talked about, and it's a big topic when you create a business plan as an entrepreneur, right? Can you take us through how you define scaling? Because I'm sure it's very different to what the conventional business potential entrepreneurs interpret it.
Yeah.
And is there such a thing as scaling in the business that you are in? Because you talk about sustainable and ethical practices, right? You can't scale aggressively the way everybody does, because then you're compromising on the
essence of the business
ethos. So how do you balance the two so that they are integrated and in harmony?
You don't scale.
Okay.
So basically, when I look at my business, there's a few things I've come to understand. People come fishing with us, firstly, not because they want to learn about the fish, not because of anything. Number one, they like fishing. They think that, that's a new activity, I want to try it, right? It's not because necessarily they want to learn about the ocean, right? But the other reason that they come fishing with us is because they want to fish with me. I've come to understand that over the years, and I've realized that I cannot franchise myself. I can't scale myself. There's no clones of me that can happen.
Yeah.
And I am very firm about the message that we put out in our business. I'm very firm about the quality and the experience that people get. We've got tiny kids, right? Tiny little kids, 4 years old, 8 years old, catching fish bigger than themselves, right? I also want to be a part of that experience. I want to make it a point that I'm there at every point, whether we have a session with 4 kids or 400 kids, right? All I can do to scale is my assistant during a session. But for everything else in the business, I don't think we can, because then it will definitely lose the message or the essence of the fact that I'm trying to teach about ethical fishing, the values. I will lose it if I scale, because I can't find me in someone else. So scaling, no, not for us. I'll just have to scale on my consistency. I just have to be consistent, and I have to keep doing it. Conservation is a business that isn't one of those that, in 5 years or in 10 years, you project what can happen and how it will happen. Because a lot of what we do is also driven by the environment. Today there's fish, and if tomorrow there's no fish, now what? That there's a lot of very environmental factors that impact what we do as well. So we can plan, but it doesn't necessarily get us there very easy. It's a long game. It takes many, many years to make a difference.
Let's talk about profit and purpose while we're on this topic.
Okay. Profit and purpose.
Yeah. I like this subject a lot. I like talking about it, and I like asking about it to different entrepreneurs just to see where they're at. But it's also for me to learn. Frankitas and has been around for over 10 years now. And we like to think that we want to grow organically, and we have been growing organically. And we've never wanted to compromise the sustainable factor in our business. And I guess that's why, in a way, we are a profitable business, but not huge. And I've always had this, I've been asked by a potential investor many times, well, how do you scale a business like yours? When does the ROI come in? And that's the part I feel I struggle the most. But in your case, I think I kind of know where the answer is going to head, but I want to hear it from you. How do you balance the two? Because I struggle sometimes,
I understand. Yeah.
you know?
When you want to do something sustainable,
Yeah.
right? It is a big struggle because you do it for the right reasons, but you also need to make money.
Yes, it's
So
important.
yeah, it is important.
Yes.
So when we started, it was more purpose than profit.
Mhm.
Right? When we started, well, I didn't even look at profit. It didn't bother me, right? I'm like, doesn't matter. We don't need to make money. We just need to do the work. We just need to educate. That was in the beginning. And then obviously it reached a point where in order for me to educate, I need to have some money to do it.
Correct. So who was funding you?
So it was
the
first
business.
it was my own money, right?
Right.
Whatever savings I had
Right.
went into making this work. And after a while I said, well, I need to survive as well.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
need to survive. This business needs to go on. If I don't do something about this,
mhm.
again, that's it. Who else is going to do it, right? So today it's a good balance. What I've done is I've split the company and what we do into two. I make sure that in a year we cover and meet our sales target, our
Mhm.
profit targets.
Mhm.
And then on the other side, we still do the work that we don't focus on the profit for. That it just feels good inside,
Mhm. Mhm.
So I've had to find that balance. And when it comes to making profit, I no longer look at it as, oh, let's just make a little profit. Let's just make a little profit. I run it ruthlessly as much as I can on the side of where I can make money, like
Right.
through our fishing shop or
Yeah.
through our gears or through, book sales, something. We figure it out and we say, no, I have to make a profit.
Mhm.
And I shouldn't feel guilty for doing it
Yes.
because I need this to run, what I do. I need this to spread the message. I need this so that the essence of what I want to do can continue. So I've just had to learn to stop feeling guilty about it.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
The guilty factor.
Yeah.
Because I talk to entrepreneurs that are in the social
enterprise,
enterprise field,
Mhm.
and a lot of them, again, predominantly women, have this guilt, like
Yes.
with money.
Yes.
Well, let's put money as a topic to a side.
Okay.
We all have this
We
very
all have interesting relationships with money.
yes.
Yeah.
But when you're an entrepreneur and you're doing something that's good, you also feel like, oh, should I be making this amount of money?
Mhm.
And so there's also these questions, right, from investors and saying, well, I don't really want to invest in social enterprises because there's no money in it. And if there was money, it's very organic. I mean, it's a transaction for them, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Although angel investors are a little bit more, they have a lot more empathy.
Yes.
They're a lot more patient, that they understand what they're investing into. It's the heart as well, and it's the value that they're investing into. So I'm happy that there are these angel investors.
Yeah, definitely.
But it always comes back at the end of the day, they still want that return of investment.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Right? Moving forward, you talk about sustainability. What's your leadership style like? How do you get buy-ins, again, not only from your team to make sure that they understand your values, that it supersedes profitability first and foremost, and to make sure that they also practice what you preach and also practice. That's within the organization and also outside of that. How do you integrate it?
So I'd like to tell you this beautiful story of my management style and how I'm
Tell me.
lovely leader.
I'm taking
and all
notes.
That. But the truth is, I'm an extremely strict and firm leader. That is the honest truth. But I am kind and I'm not unreasonable.
Okay.
But I have to be strict and I have to be firm because the work that we do is not fun and games. We take parents entrust their children to us to take them out in situations that could possibly be very dangerous. We've got sharp hooks lying around. We catch fish with teeth that can do a lot of damage.
Right.
So there is. It's not all fun and games on the business side, in the side of my team, right? I am very strict. When we work, there's a certain quality that we put out there. People trust us for a reason. I do not compromise on that. And in terms of management style, I think they've understood that the children, the experience, it means a lot to me. I do not hire anglers. Not a single one, not a single person in my team fishes.
Right.
So they don't.
Because?
Just because it also helps me spread the message to many more people.
Right.
We have a lot of partnerships with universities. So we get a lot of interns coming in on the hospitality side of things, on the business side of things, right? And I just need them to focus on those areas and be good on those areas and leave the training and the fishing or the ethical side of it to me. I have an understanding that what I do is also not for everyone.
Right.
But for the part-time trainers that we have that come in on the session, I've also segregated duties in such a way where they know that, okay, you're in charge of making sure no kid falls into the water.
Right.
Something like that. So I've just broken it down. And I'm very firm about the duties, very firm about our style of work, right? Very focused on our experience. We want to give people an experience that when you come and fish with me, when you come and fish with my team, more than seeing how much we love what we do, I want you to go home and tell people about what an amazing experience you have and what an amazing fish you caught. You don't have to speak about me. I just want you to love the ocean a little bit more. I want you to love the rivers and the streams a little bit more. I want you to love the fish a bit more. And if I've done that, then we've done a good job.
Key messages.
Mhm.
What would be your top 3
Mhm.
key message to our audience out there listening who would like to go fishing, who've never tried or have tried, but want to be a lot more conscious and be a lot more aware? Do they come and find you and say, hey, I want my family to have this nice day out with you? How do they find out about you, number one? And how can we find out a lot more about the programs that you promote? And lastly, again, it's this message that you want to put out, not just in Malaysia. As you say, this is still a very, very new thing.
Southeast Asia.
For Southeast Asia. So for those of us out there, what should we be aware of? If it's not in Malaysia, if it's their respective countries, like who should they go and see for ethical, sustainable fishing? Do you have partners in each country that they can seek help with?
So, firstly, if you'd like to go fishing ethically, please look for me, right? I'm more than happy to take as many people out. And if we don't go fishing, you are always welcome to go on our website, drop us a message, and my team is always there to answer your questions, right? If there's doubts, just ask, right? No question is ever too silly. You know, if you go out fishing and you say, hey, someone's done that, and you just feel like, I just need to know if that's right or wrong, drop us a message, right? That's fine. Now, as far as representatives go, I'm one of the representatives in Southeast Asia. But the IGFA has representatives all around the world. And all you have to do is get on the IGFA website, look for representatives in your area, and you're welcome to drop them a message or drop the IGFA a message as well. So there's support for us to share the knowledge all around the world. It's not just me. There's a lot of us globally trying to do this right as well. But for here, for Malaysia, for Southeast Asia, if you need to get in touch, you get on Facebook, get on Instagram, you know, get on our website, get in touch. Yeah.
So what's next for the Milkfish Lady? Do you see yourself replicating this current business model that you have in Malaysia and perhaps invite a business partner who's very, very similar in terms of values and ethics for ocean conservation and sustainability? Would you want to invite potential partners out there in different countries that want to assimilate what you do here?
Definitely. I think collaborating, working together, more people working with the same goal is always better than doing it by myself.
Yeah.
You know, definitely. So if for us, for the future of the Milkfish Lady, I mentioned about the Sailfish project that we have, right? So that requires funding. Now I've gone through the process initially of trying to get funding for this project through corporate ways, but it's a very new project. So it's a lot of corporate organizations. They're not very keen on jumping on something that hasn't materialized or hasn't has any proof of concept at this point in time. So what I've done is, in order for me to just kickstart it, I've launched two other side businesses to be able to fund the project, right? And they're both focused on saving the ocean to save the fish. So one of it is called Sila. Sila is will be launched in September if all goes well, where I work with beautiful plastic recycler. He remanufactures plastic. So he takes trash from the beach and he melts them down and he turns them into beautiful products.
Wow, here.
Yes, you're right here in Malaysia.
That's so cool. What's his name and what's
His name is Young. He's from Precious Plastics, and they're a beautiful company. They work on taking trash and turning it into beautiful things. Although when it comes
Love
to
that.
recycling and when it comes to repurposing plastics, design has always been an issue. They all kind of look the same, have the same concept. So where I come in with Young is that I come in with a bit of a design element. The reason we want to build a furniture that we can now sell, and the profits of Sila goes to funding our sailfish conservation project. So it's saving the ocean in a way, recycling, reusing materials, and the funds go back to funding our sailfish program. So those are one of the ways that we work with, others. I'm happy to work with anyone at this point, any creative ideas that could help us, work on building ways to grow funds for our conservation project, or even just a whole new project to save fish or save the ocean. Anytime, I'm happy.
Listen, everybody. The Milkfish Lady here is open to collaboration.
Very open.
And partnerships.
Yes.
Please get in touch with Shamin. Thank you very much.
Even with the fashion industry, people in fashion.
Knock, 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 knock. Fashion people.
Bungalow 18.
Please.
Knock on the doors of Bungalow 18.
Okay, I see. Right.
You need good seafood, to run great restaurants,
That is a separate conversation I want to have. Obviously, Bungalow 18 is expanding.
Oh, lovely, yes.
But we are, we're expanding the food side of the business. And there's a selfish reason why you're here.
Yeah.
It's all
for all the good omega-3s that's coming our way. Yeah.
That's right. I need a sustainable and ethical fish supplier.
Yeah. And it makes a difference, by the way.
There you go.
Sustainably caught fish. Yeah.
Well, so on that note then, would you be open for restaurants?
Yes.
To seek you out in order to supply fish?
Yes. So it won't come directly from me. There are commercial fisheries which are sustainable in Malaysia.
Yep.
They do it right.
Right.
And I would love to even focus on them at some point. And if restaurants want us to connect them together, better quality seafood, sustainably caught, it makes such a big difference. Yes, I would love to connect.
I think you should definitely look into that. Like consult people like me.
Yeah.
I mean, I love fish.
Yeah.
I love seafood, but I don't necessarily know what is more sustainable than others. Like I understand sotong, squid is one of the best things that you can eat from the ocean.
Yes.
It's one of the most sustainable ones because they just produce so quickly.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. Yep.
But there are other things.
Plenty of others.
So a side business plan there? Perhaps?
You know me. You know that 12-year-old girl. She's got dreams. She's happy. She's happy to do whatever it takes.
That is so cool. Now, what sort of advice would you have for other entrepreneurs out there that are looking into an impact-driven business that is authentically sustainable and that looks into the fairness and kindness, not only humans, but the environment in totality?
So, number one, I think that when you go into this industry and this line of work, you have to understand that it's not instant gratification. There is no instant gratification. This is a long game. It takes time. Now, for the work that you do, you might only see a good amount of change in about 10 years, 20 years. I've given myself 80 years.
80?
80.
Wow.
I don't think I'll be here when I get to see the total goodness of what we do. But there needs to be an understanding that
Yeah.
it takes a long time. It takes a long time for people to accept what you're doing, to believe and trust in what you're doing, for the environment to change. These things take time. So firstly, it's a long game, understand it. Secondly, the world is filled with expert naysayers. Everybody, and it always comes from a good place, I think. When people hear of good work that people want to do, impact driven work, everybody wants to contribute. And they want to contribute by telling you, do this or do that. And then if you say, oh, I have this idea, then they'll be like, no, that's not going to be good. Somebody else is doing it. Trust your heart and your gut. Don't lose focus of that, because the world can tell you a whole lot of things. There's so many rules, right? But you're the only person that's going to get you there. So you have to trust your heart and your gut, and don't listen to naysayers, right? I think that's a very important thing to do. And don't be afraid of failing. The world we live in, it fails sometimes. But it also is a great example of how it comes back alive. When given a chance, it bounces back. Cut down trees, they grow, You give the ocean time to heal, it comes back. So don't give up.
Gosh, you're so wise. Why can't I be that wise?
I bet you are. Let's switch roles.
No, I'm quite comfortable being here. Thank you very much. Health. Let's talk about that. If you know me a little bit, I'm all about health, not just the physique. I'm all about being healthy on both physique and
Mind and
the mind
soul.
and the heart and soul. So important. I think it supersedes anything else and everything else. I feel. How do you feel about health, and how much time do you invest into your own health?
I can be better. I
Right.
think there's always room for improvements. For the work that I do, because I love what I do so much, I spend long hours doing it. And every time a new idea comes around, I find myself going to bed at 3 in the morning. But I wake up really happy. There's a lot of contentment in what I do, but it's not healthy. So what I've been trying to do.
What do you mean it's not healthy?
To
Why?
not have enough sleep.
Right.
So
Sorry.
at
Yes.
some point it
Yes.
will
That's
it will
true.
catch on.
Yes.
It's sleep is very important.
Very.
So otherwise I'll be falling asleep in meetings, which is not healthy as well. So the thing is, what I've done over last year I worked really hard. I didn't have weekends for myself. I just kept working, and for the last 6 months, second half of the year, I couldn't even meet up with my friends. It was just work. It was good work. I was happy, but by the end of it, when it was all done, I didn't know what to do with myself, because I was so into a routine, right? And I thought, this is not right. I've just gone too extreme and I don't have a balance. So I took a month or two off this year, off work. First time I've ever done it in this 12 years that we've run our company. I took the time off to find balance. I needed to think about things. I needed to feel happy inside. So what I do is I eat food that makes me happy. And when I say that, it's not necessarily from a fancy restaurant. It could just be white rice, some sardines, fried egg, just things that feel good for my soul, right? Nothing fancy. Obviously, the fancy food comes in once in a while. I love dancing. It makes me happy. So once in a while, I take time to do that. I think it works for the physical side of things. I try and go out for walks as much as I can. I love exploring. It works for my mind. It feeds my mind. I go out, I look at things, I look at people, I love observing. And when I take the time to relax, it actually makes work a lot better. So yeah, I could definitely be better, sleep more, eat better. But right now it's just finding that balance. Sleep.
Yes. Huge advocate of sleep. I love my sleep. Won't compromise it.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
I admire you for that.
Thank you. Shamin, thank you so much for your time,
Thanks for having me.
for your wisdom, for your energy and time into conserving our planet through the ocean, and for educating the right way, and for being patient, and to have a mindset that this is a marathon and not a sprint, and this business isn't for the instant gratificators out there. Thank you for what you do. I'm so, 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 so honored to have met you. I really am. I think you're one of the coolest chick I've ever met. That's why I'm like so giddy that I get to call you a friend now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's so important for us to be able to speak about this. And I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to share about what I do.
Of course.
For loving it so much. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for tuning in to Business on the Rise. Don't forget to follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel.